Good morning, everybody. Happy to have you. I'm Neil Cavuto in for Maria Bartiromo. We're seeing the lira, at least out of Turkey, rebound a little bit here. But again, even with today's 5 or 6% pop, depending on this moving target, it is still down 40% from its highs, a little more than a few weeks ago. But that was good enough to sort of add some stability, not only to our own futures markets, but certainly in Europe right now, in Asia overnight. It was a similar story. Relief on a rally that might be tepid, but good enough to keep this rally going here as it continues. And Wall Street opens up in 2.5 hours. Meanwhile, Turkey is already responding in kind to the United States' threat of doubling tariffs on aluminum, metal-related products. President Erdogan now saying that he will go after electronics concerns in the United States, boycott those. You know how this goes. It's fueling and feeding a sort of a tit for tat here that could get worse before it gets better. Someone who has been there and knows very much the mood there, just got back from there late last night. She's here with us now, but she looks very awake and spry. Good mood. Could be just that she's just heavily caffeinated. Laura Wells joins us right now. Laura, good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
It is weird, and I'm wondering, you were mentioning during the break, maybe it's this ongoing wrath that President Erdogan now has for the American position on this, with the tariffs and everything else, even going after President Trump. Is that how Turkish citizens are seeing it, that it's our fault they're in this trouble?
At this point, largely, President Erdogan and the ruling party have been stoking the anti-Western sentiment for so long. Right now, Turkey has particularly a lot of things, many gripes against the United States. As you mentioned, the new increased tariffs, for instance, problems with, it's not only Pastor Brunson, it's also 12 Turkish-American dual citizens who are in jail, 3 very long-term consulate employees who happen to be Turkish citizens that are now in prison in Turkey, and they did not let the U.S. know beforehand. Many are considered political prisoners, at least by the United States at this point.
But we made a big beef of this only fairly recently. So Turkish citizens, I mean, the runaway inflation, the problems with bank debt and all that was long before this, right?
Most Turks really didn't know what was going on.
Is that right?
90% of the press in Turkey is really pro-government, is controlled somehow directly or indirectly by the government. So we're not even seeing the exchange rate dollar to Turkish lira broadcast on some of the networks anymore. I mean, this is a highly filtered press environment. And really, about 50% of the population really supports President Erdogan. It's a highly nationalistic society. And
so he's made the U.S. the boogeyman, and they're buying that.
Right. Well, and he's talked about the gripes with the United States throughout the years. So you have the fact that the U.S. is supporting some of the Syrian Kurdish fighters in Syria, right. And that's a group which certainly Turkey has been taking on militarily down there. They took over Afrin, and there's a lot of tension in Manbij down there. You also have the fact that Turkey is trying to become more independent of NATO and the U.S. and buying their weaponry or making their weaponry. And they've already signed an agreement and started putting money down for the S-400 anti-missile defense system by Russia, which no one has said will be compatible with NATO. And in fact, it might be able to break the code of the stealth mode of the F-35 fighter jets. So it really could be a real threat to the United States and to NATO. So
which is why some are saying, we're going to kick you out of NATO. Do you think that's likely?
That would be very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Especially with the ongoing sanctions with Iran, and Turkey's a key player right there. They import a lot of gas and oil and have pretty good relations with Iran.
Well, how did the bloom come off the rose here? I mean, Erdogan and President Trump were very close. He admired that he's the president. Erdogan's very tough leadership style and all of that. And then I don't know whether it was the pastor issue, some of these other hostage issues, but then everything turned south fast.
It's a confluence of issues. We knew that the economy was going down for many years. You talk to any economist, any analyst, and certainly in the past, President Erdogan finds someone to blame when things start going awry. Right now, it's the United States. In the past, it's been the Netherlands. It's been Germany. Many analysts are saying he's engaging in hostage diplomacy. And I think for a long time, there were tensions building between the two countries before President Trump. Right. And now it's continued. It's really coming to a head right now. And with this lira crisis, this is the time when, the president can capitalize capitalize on that and say, look, this is what the United States is doing. It's engaging in economic terrorism and
whoever is at fault in the public's eye, they're seeing it at the grocery store. They're seeing, you know, I was reading some of the milk and bread prices are effectively doubling every week. So, I mean, at what point do they say, we don't care whose fault it is, but can you, Mr. President, solve it?
We don't know. His supporters are very loyal. They stuck with him through thick and thin. You know, just a few years ago, we had a rash of terrorist attacks, and they supported him. They said, this is what happens when his party loses the majority. And there was another snap election, and he regained that majority, his party did. And then he has changed the system effectively. So he is sweeping powers that no Western democracy knows. So they've actually just rewarded him each and every time anything happens. So this crisis, he might actually use to his political advantage. We'll just see. So
the idea that he would even be a duly elected leader for a set period of time, he could be like Hugo Chavez was in Venezuela, in there till the end.
Very pragmatic businessman, and many others have pointed out the fact that Turkey could be the next Argentina.
Right.
Venezuela, that's an extreme case. We'll have to see. There's many other things that Turkey does have, not the oil, but other things. So we'll have to see.
The lira and the tumbling of that currency, it doesn't seem that, I know they've put limits on how much people can take out of the country or cash out, but while it stabilized a little bit here, it just seems like a Band-Aid solution to me.
A lot of the things are.
Yeah.
For instance, President Erdogan doesn't believe in the general fiscal orthodoxy, which is he believes that high interest rates create high inflation. And so he's always vowed to keep the interest rates quite low. And that has become like a political slogan, which has become popular because people like to imagine that they can borrow. There was almost no mortgages before President Erdogan for various reasons. Now people have. But now you also have such a huge amount of corporate debt, and that's all denominated in foreign currencies, usually dollars or the euro. And we may really see blood on the street with these corporations. They really may go under. But President Erdogan always seems to have some sort of government solution. So whether it's the case of his political enemies, where he seized $15 billion worth of companies since the failed coup attempt,
right.
Will he seize others? Will he give them, an infusion of capital? He's certainly done that for his friends, or some sort of tax amnesty or other amnesties.
Couldn't he run to Russia? Couldn't he run to China? Couldn't he just, all right, well, I'll do my own thing with these guys?
That's what he's already doing.
Yeah.
He's already building those relations, and that is what the West might lose. What if Turkey, with all of the nuclear warheads, with the NATO bases, with the U.S. bases, what if they said, no, we're on Russia's side, we're on China's side, we're on Iran's side, et cetera? What if that happens? What will we do then? I mean, there are other solutions.
How were you treated when you were there?
Well, I've been living there for many years.
Yeah.
In general, they don't even think I'm American. They think I'm probably British. So that's actually a little bit easier.
Right.
Although there's a lot of anti-Western sentiment, again, stoked by the president. But in general, they're very nice people, and they don't necessarily assume. But I haven't been in extremely conservative areas, generally speaking.
Real quickly, and finally, President Trump's approach to this is always using the economic lever. Again, these tariffs on metal, aluminum-related products. He's played this out in China. He's played this out with Canada and Mexico. It is his means by which he can extract concessions, or hopes to. What do you think of that? What you talk to business types in the country. What do they think of that? That's a unique approach to solve a political impasse by doing it this way.
Sure. Frustrated. I don't think the timing of that tweet by President Trump helped anything, because it was playing into the hands of President Erdogan, who had already started setting this up, saying, look, the U.S. is attacking us economically. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. I think that President Erdogan will certainly respond well. When Turkey shot down a Russian aircraft, a fighter jet that was flying into Turkey,
right.
That Putin dealt with that with economic sanctions. He even banned flights into the country. He killed the tourism of Russian tourists. He even banned things like tomatoes, because there was a lot of produce. And also Russia, it provides Turkey with a lot, 60% of its natural gas. So, and Turkey is dependent on energy, 100% dependent. So it was very effective. And Putin was very, very tough with Erdogan. He backed down. So it was a war of words, very similar to this. So it is winnable, but I think a lot of it has to do with timing and more quiet power rather than loud power, because President Erdogan will use anything to his favor if he can. And he is very savvy politically with his base.
And neither leader strikes me as being quiet or a shrinking violet type when it comes to our president, their president.
Well, what I mean is if you're going to do the tariffs, maybe just not that day when there's a true crisis in the lira. But such measures, yes, they do work. The common business person in Turkey, though, is not very happy about it.
Sure.
And it increases their frustration with President Erdogan. And certainly there have been many business groups who have said, please stabilize the lira. Please lower these terrible inflation rates at this point. And create a better diplomacy.
But they're making it next to impossible for someone to get their hands on other currencies, the dollar included.
Yes.
Right?
Well, naturally and,
right.
and through other means, yes, because, for instance, on Friday, you couldn't even get into the apps. You couldn't exchange dollars. There were long lines. I mean, it's very difficult. So it was naturally difficult. But, yes, people are worried about a lot worse if there are going to be true capital controls or not. We'll deal with that when we come to it. But, yes, I do know of business people who have money and they're thinking, I might have to move this out in case, you know, there are more measures to come. Yes.
Amazing. Laura, thank you very, very much. An encyclopedia on all this stuff. Holy Toledo.
Thank you.
All right, we're monitoring that here. And again, just to show you if there were panic sort of sentiment building about Turkey, even with the improvement today, the markets have a funny way of showing it. What's more, the markets have a funny way of showing what appears now to be a terror incident in London early this morning. A car trying to crash near Parliament through a gate and run down some folks. And no one was injured, we're told, in this. Nevertheless, that gentleman has been arrested on terrorism charges. But again, the stuff that used to rattle markets when we got even a headline, a whiff of this, not the case today. And as you can see with our futures, the European markets, the Asian markets, virtually all are up. More to this. Man, oh man, when it rains, it pours. News of a bridge collapse in Italy. Cheryl Casone has more on that. Hey, Cheryl.
Hey, we're getting some breaking news in here from Italy. We want to bring you what we know at this point. This happened near Genoa. This is northern Italy. There is a picture that we found on Twitter of the bridge collapse. There are many homes and buildings and other structures underneath the bridge. Now, a news agency there is quoting an Italian ambulance service saying that dozens of people are dead. But again, these details may change. This is breaking news we're getting. There's a large section of the bridge missing. Photographs show huge pieces of rubble on the ground underneath all of it. We are following the story, trying to get more details. Again, breaking news out of Italy. This could be a major disaster in northern Italy. Again, we're trying to confirm what we can. Another story we're following also out of Europe. A man is under arrest for crashing his car into security barriers outside the House of Parliament. This happened in London earlier this morning. He's described only as being in his late 20s. He was arrested on suspicion of terrorism. Now, no weapons were found in the car. Scotland Yard says pedestrians and cyclists were hit, but police do not believe any of the injuries are life-threatening.
2 people have been taken to hospital. 1 man has already been discharged and 1 woman remains in hospital being treated for serious but thankfully non-life-threatening injuries. Given that this appears to be a deliberate act, the method, and this being an iconic site, we are treating it as a terrorist incident, and the investigation is being led by officers from the Counter-Terrorism Command.
Well, streets in the surrounding area are blocked off, and the nearby Westminster Underground Station still remains closed at this hour as they approach their rush hour. The area, the site of a terror attack in March of 2017, when Khalid Massoud plowed a car into crowds on Westminster Bridge, killing 4 people at the time. Well, 1 week later, Elon Musk is providing new information about a surprise tweet on taking Tesla private. In a blog, Musk says that Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund has approached him several times about providing financial support for the buyout. He also says he is working with some big-name advisors. He tweeted last night, "I'm excited to work with Silver Lake and Goldman Sachs as financial advisors, plus Wachtell Lipton as legal advisors on the proposal to take Tesla private." Musk also says a deal would require far less than $70 billion. Tesla's market value based on Musk's stated target price of $420 per share. Well, the Wall Street Journal says that our addiction to the exclamation point is causing anxiety when emailing with coworkers or bosses. Some people say They feel anxious when their exclamation points aren't reciprocated. In the article, the journal also argues that our overuse of exclamation points makes them less effective, Neil. So I guess when they sent you that email and I said, thanks, exclamation mark, I'm sorry if I caused you any stress whatsoever. So.
You know what's weird? When it's all caps and an exclamation point, then it's like screaming, right? That's
screaming.
Not good.
Yep.
I don't know. Kat, do you buy that?
I don't buy that. I think that if you're getting stressed out by a punctuation mark of any sort, then you probably have some other issues.
Yeah, there's something you said at that.
Yeah.
Are you careful how you frame things in an email?
I never use exclamation points.
Really?
This is one of my pet peeves. I think they're way, way overused.
Oh, then you're annoyed with me because I definitely overuse them.
Right?
Yeah.
Every other word. Kind of.
Sometimes multiple ones.
Myself. Yes.
I don't know.
Sorry, my apologies to anyone I've offended.
Well,
it's causing me personal stress.
Sorry, John.
I don't want to drop any hints here, but this internet thing is going to be big. It's just going to be big, just so you know. All right, we have a lot more coming up, including millennials who are not saving for retirement. And that's not a shocker. The fact that they still want to retire young is. Now, I'm not going to pick on Kat after this, but I am going to pick on Kat after this. All right, young people, millennials, they have no retirement savings, not an early prospect that they're going to start saving, yet they do talk increasingly about wanting to retire by age 60. Chris Hogan, Ramsey Solutions financial expert and author of the upcoming book, Everyday Millionaires, on what's going on here. That just seems to be contradictory on just the surface, Chris, but what's going on here?
I think you have people that are expressing their desires, Neil, and it's good to dream. I just think when you have an expectation without a plan, it's called a thought. So I want to grab these young people and continue to guide them. I want them to have those dreams. I want them to have that expectation, but we've got to get to work. And I'm talking to these young people on my show, and I'm hearing from them. They're wanting to learn. They want to know what to do, and I'm trying to guide as many people as I can.
So where do you, this is Lindsey Bell, where do you tell them to put their money? Is it equities, given that we're about to be in the longest bull market of all time? What's your advice?
I think we have to help them understand how money works first. So that is, we got to get on a budget. You've got to start to tell money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And then we've got to get out of debt. Debt is what's keeping young people from realizing and living a lot of their dreams. So I want them to understand the reality. You know, they teach us in grad school that debt's a tool. No, it's not. Debt's a limiter. It keeps you from living your dreams. So once I get them to that point where they're out of debt, then I talk about investing. And it's very important. We've got to get in with the stock market. But I want them to understand what they're investing in and also the expectation from that investment.
So Chris, the data in this study is that I think it was 66% of millennials aren't saving for retirement. That doesn't seem that surprising to me, given that, you know, a lot of people are just getting started in their 30s. You know, they're going out, they're buying homes, they're starting families. I mean, a lot of my personal saving didn't start happening into the 40s. So are they really that far behind?
Well, I think America as a whole is extremely behind. And the best way to stop a cycle is to educate people a lot earlier. So I want them in their 20s to get on this plan and start to invest. We all know money's two best friends are compound interest and time. But according to this study, 71% of millennials want to understand how to reach their financial goals. 65% want to learn how to budget and save for retirement. 55% want to understand about debt. So they have this desire. We just have to guide them. And here's the problem. If parents don't know and can't share the information, then these young people are left in the dark. So I want to encourage them to get their own education, find the knowledge, reach out and learn so you can apply it in your life.
Chris, but I know that one big problem for young people is student loan debt. What do you suggest people do about student loan debt? I think that really keeps it pretty impossible to save for a lot of millennials.
Student loan debt is a massive situation, and we've got to help young people understand there are avenues to get to higher education without signing loan documents. So I encourage them to look at where they are, understand the debt, that it's not a friend, but I want them to attack it. And we teach attacking debt, smallest to biggest. It's called the debt snowball. You want to attack the little one first and then move down the line from there. But we can't allow it just to hang around for 15 or 20 years. That chokes out your opportunity to grow money.
You know, Chris, one of the things I think is a constant no matter the generation, it's really, and you've repeated this enough, it's about money in, money out. And I've seen millionaires lose a lot of money because they're spending like, you know, tens of millionaires, and they exceed whatever they have coming in, and a lot more is going out. It seems like a basic concept that's lost on not just millennials, a lot of generations, because a lot of those kids' parents are in the same mind.
No, you're absolutely right. And Neil, it really boils down to controlling lifestyle. Too many people allow their lifestyle to be determined by their income. And the problem is human nature is to spend. But I think there's another side of it too. We want to live and we want to live well. So I think just starting to control it. This is not an age issue. This is not a Gen Z or millennial or baby boomer. This is a people situation, because money is something that all of us need to rely on and learn how to use properly. And I think we can guide people. We just have to keep giving them the right information.
But what I don't understand, Chris, and we were touching on the outset here, a lot of these same young people are saying, all right, I don't have a pot to you-know-what in, but I still want to retire by 60, and preferably sooner. What do you tell them if you have a one-on-one with them or you meet with them at your book signings? What do you say?
Well, I tell them this, Neil. A dream without a plan is called a wish. And so wanting to retire at 60, that's a good thing. But what are you doing about it? You know, I think it's unrealistic for us to expect great results and to live a good life without hard work and sacrifice. So I'm grabbing them and I'm guiding them. I want them to understand the world has a plan for your money if you don't. We just have to wake up, get in tune, and start doing the common sense things. Getting on a budget, getting out of debt, building an emergency fund, and starting to invest. Investing small can lead to big gains. We just have to be consistent.
You know, Lindsey, you were touching on it too, and during the break, I don't want to give away conversations, but many younger people are not confident that Social Security will be there for them, that a lot of these other entitlements, or whatever you want to call them, that are given for their parents or grandparents' generation might not be there for them. So what do they do?
Yeah, no, I know. The young people today we're left up to our own will to save. And Chris, I would just ask you, you know, individuals aren't saving now. Is it because, I know you mentioned that there's some restrictions to investing in these 401k plans. Is it just that they have to pay down their school debt? Is it that they just don't make enough as others that have come out of college? What's the driving force behind the lack of savings?
I think it's a multitude of those issues that you just mentioned. I think it is a lack of knowledge and understanding just how important it is, a lack of false reliance on Social Security, that it's going to be there. And we all know, I mean, it's a few votes away from being majorly adjusted. But I think at the end, I want people to just take control of what they can control. This is, again, getting yourself out of debt. And that might mean taking on an extra job. It might mean making some sacrifices. But again, I've never heard anybody that got out of debt that's gone through Financial Peace University. I've never had anybody tell me, Chris, I'm really mad that I got out of debt. I want to keep giving my money away. That doesn't happen. So we've got to learn these basic skills, but keep applying them. Learning them is not enough. Application is where progress happens.
You know what's so threatening about you, Chris, in these one-on-one conversations? You're a great writer, that's a given, but you also have such a powerful voice that I would do anything you told me to do. I would just say, all right, I'll start saving if that's what it takes. Don't
Neil, I'm going to use whatever tools I can to encourage people. Just don't ask me to sing.
All right. Oh, I don't know. I have a feeling that you have a very good voice for that. Chris, thank you very, very much. All right, we've got a lot more coming up, including this one that's rather revealing for some Democrats, many of whom like socialism over capitalism, and it just doesn't extend to this one particular sensation in New York. I'll explore after this. No, I am not, Maria Bartiromo, but amazing facsimile. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. Happy to be here in her stead while she's taking a deserved break. We do have some breaking news, though, in Italy. This bridge collapse that now has at least 10 people known dead. Could be others. Many are missing as well. And meanwhile, on financial markets here, the lira, not the Italian lira, of course, we're talking right now about what's happening, particularly in Turkey, where that currency is under extreme pressure. Rebounded a little bit today, but it is still off 40% from its highs. Nevertheless, the fact that the free fall stopped and even slightly reversed was good enough to send our futures northward, as well as stocks in Europe and, of course, in Asia. So we're keeping track of that. We're also keeping track of Democrats who might be driving a hard left, and a lot of them happy to do so. Many positive about socialism, liking it more than capitalism. I don't know whether Juan Williams is in that group, but the five co-hosts joins us right now. What is going on with that? I mean, I know the numbers are all over the map, but when they were asked this, what are you more comfortable with? I think that's how it was framed. They said socialism. What did you make of it?
Well, I think you have to really dig a little deeper here. The questions about socialism, so much gets labeled socialism or progressivism. But I think what's going on in the country, Neil, is especially among the younger generation, it's not about confiscation of wealth. It's not about nationalization of industries. It's about a social safety net. And when it comes to the cost of health care, even prescription drugs, the cost of housing, the cost of education, more and more young people think the government has a legitimate role in providing them with some either safety net from falling or support so they can rise.
So when people say socialism, do they really know what socialism
I don't think they do.
means? I mean,
No.
you know, when we think of the Soviet Union, that's a totally different kind of socialism.
Right. Well, and that's communism even. But no, but they're not thinking in those terms. I don't think they want government in their life telling them what they can do in terms of entrepreneurship or who are the winners and losers. What they want is, in an era of very high income inequality, some protection against being left behind.
They're not going to get it.
Well, I think, you know what, this is interesting, because now if you want to talk Democratic Party politics, you really have to understand the popularity of things like a guaranteed income, especially in an era when it's harder and harder for those who are at the lower end of the wage earning scale to really compete and say, for instance, this is August, I have enough money to take time off to go on a vacation. I think that we're getting into a position where fewer and fewer of the young people feel they're in that position.
Do they figure out how you pay for that?
Well, you got to work hard. You have to have some luck. You got to build a resume. I think all these things are true. I've always been an advocate of saying to people, you know, don't do anything until you get an education. Certainly don't get married, don't have children until you're married, because I think the two incomes help to provide that safety net on a personal basis. But if you're talking in terms of the politics, you go back to the Bernie Sanders of the world. And Neil, I think it's also interesting that a lot of the Bernie Sanders people are very close on the scale to Donald Trump people in terms of that populist sense that, wait, why shouldn't we limit trade to protect some jobs for hardworking blue-collar people in this country? Why shouldn't we do something to make sure that young people can afford health care if we do much the same for the elderly in terms of Medicare? What about Social Security? A lot of the young people don't believe it'll be there for them. So it's interesting. The seniors would say, oh, you young Democrats, you younger generation, you're so interested in socialism. And I think the younger people would shoot back and say, wait a minute, you have government-protected income once you hit a certain age in this country.
But safety nets are one thing, right? And I think that in our government system now, we have safety nets. I don't know why go all the way radical and say socialism. I want socialism.
Well, I think it's a label, as I said at the start. I think that if you actually said to them, this is what socialism is, young people, it means that the government is going to nationalize your industries. We're going to look like Venezuela. They'd say, oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I think they believe in the American capitalistic dream. They just want to be sure that they're not being left behind.
All right. Could I interrupt you for real quick, because I know as soon as you sat up here, apparently the president saw you. And we have our first presidential tweet.
Yeah, Neil, President Trump just tweeted 4 minutes ago about Omarosa Manigault Newman, of course, who departed the White House last year and just wrote a book. When you give a crazed, crying lowlife a break and give her a job at the White House, I guess it just didn't work out. Good work by General Kelly for quickly firing that dog. It's already got nearly 2,000 retweets and about 4,500 likes, Neil.
And one of the tapes, he expressed surprise, I think, Cheryl, that she had been fired by General Kelly. But
Yeah, and one of the tapes that was between the two of them.
Sad to see her go, or he didn't love that she was leaving. Seems a little bit different now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Juan, I'm sorry. I knew you wanted to squeeze that tweet in there, so we did.
Well, I'd be delighted, although, again, you know, you just wonder, dog? What is he thinking? Doesn't he know he's president?
What do you think of these tweets? They go with no abandon, on and on.
Well, I think, you know, the best light I could shine on it, Neil, is that he is himself. That's Donald Trump. That's what he's thinking. I just wish that the impulse controls were a little stronger. And I think that it's offensive when, even though she is not someone who you would consider a Trump supporter at the moment, she's turned on him. You could call her all, not traitor, betrayal. But I don't know why you would stoop to the level of calling somebody a dog, and especially in a situation where his language often, he knows how people are going to react. So is it intentional? I don't know. I just think it's not good.
Yeah, and I was thinking, you and I mentioned it before, but she taped him, Michael Cohen, his former personal lawyer, taped him. Why did they do that?
Gotta find out. You know,
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I think it's just the kind of culture of the moment. It's kind of like, you know, a reality show White House. That's just the way people operate.
But doing it in the Situation Room, that's a major issue, especially for our foreign intelligence partners.
I thought alarms went off if you did that.
Well, you know,
in the Situation Room.
I thought you couldn't even bring the phone into the Situation Room. But so the question is, was General Kelly just using that as a private space to fire somebody?
By the way, do you think that exchange, she said, was threatening? Omarosa, it seemed pretty perfunctory.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. She said she felt as if she was being held prisoner. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you can, I guess you could secure the door and not let people out. But again, that's in her opinion. I don't know that that's the normal circumstance as a reporter. I've just walked through the Situation Room and nobody said, hey, you can't get out of here or anything like that to me. But I bet they have all sorts of James Bond type devices in there.
But you and I are old enough to remember, you know, presidents taping those who came to the White House.
Yes.
Now the people going to the White House are taping the president.
Well, but it's worse than that if they're taping each other, right? So it's like there's no sense of trust or camaraderie. That's what's alarming to me, because that's supposed to be a team.
But the president has also suggested that he's taping people, right?
Yes.
He suggested
you're right.
that he was taping Comey. So that's why I said it's just kind of, it's the world they operate in. I mean, when you bring someone like Omarosa into the White House, that's the kind of behavior that you're going to get.
And what was Omarosa doing in the Situation Room to begin with, right?
Well, what happens to Omarosa after this? Is there any repercussions?
Good question.
In the situation.
Remember a moment ago, Neil said he and I are old enough to remember. Well, I'm old enough to think, I don't know why this woman's famous in the first place. Exactly what did she do other than be famous?
For being famous.
Yeah, she's a reality TV villain, right? And then he gives her the job. She had senior staff status, $175,000 salary. You can't get much higher in the White House other than the president, $400,000. So here, and then she said, the president says no one liked her. Everyone thought she was vile and this and that. But she said nice things about me.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the question you're asking is she prosecuted as a result of this? I mean, clearly she breached some security protocols.
If there was a situation being discussed in there, or it was national security issues, I don't think her being fired is a national security.
Yeah.
No, but taping in the Situation Room.
Yeah, the best.
Is there a law that says you can't?
No.
To John's point, tape in the situation.
I don't think so. No, I think there's a protocol. Like, they take away your phones. And in this White House, at some point,
could you speak up a little bit? I just want to make sure I get that.
Yeah. Don't take away my phone. Yeah.
By the way, we were talking about the president. He's all in political mode here, running for re-election, and he blasted the president governor of New York State. I want you to respond to this one.
He called me and he said, I'll never run for president against you. Oh, please do it. Please. Anybody that runs against Trump suffers.
It's true. So I know he said almost the same thing when Oprah was considering running, right? What'd you make of that? It's going to be a crowded field, whoever runs against him.
Wow. I was interested in the idea that he thought he could win as governor of New York, because this is a pretty blue state, New York.
I thought he was just talking about if he was the nominee. No?
Yeah, if he ran for governor, right? Is that what?
No, I interpret as running for president.
Yeah, no, he said, but earlier he said he would have run for governor, and he could have beaten Cuomo.
I see.
And then he just decided he was going to run for president, and he beats everybody on the Republican and the Hillary Clinton Democratic side. But I think that he has tremendous political confidence. I'm thinking.
You could call it that.
Yeah, and also, you know, some good intuition. But I was thinking, could he really win in New York State? I don't know.
It is a divided field, though. If they can't clear a path and settle on one person, you could have, what, a couple of dozen people?
It's early. It's really early. But the question is, who is the leader of the Democratic Party?
It's not that early, Juan. We've got a graphics package ready to go.
All right.
Music and all of that.
Is Cuomo a real contender? Or you think he would jump in?
Yeah, I think that he has that desire. I think he has the ambition, and I think he has, in his opinion, the track record. We'll see how that goes. The question is he sufficiently combative and attractive to the rest of the country to really pose a threat?
Is that what you need? Do you need a combative personality who punch back full heavyweight mode with the president?
Right, and I mean, to me, Omarosa, even though I think she has zero credibility, and I wouldn't read this book, I wouldn't buy this book, she is in full combat mode with President Trump at the moment, and it's captured national attention, TV attention especially, in a way that you wouldn't anticipate. You need that element if you are going to go into the schoolyard with Donald Trump.
There's going to be no higher ground in 2020. It's going to be a schoolyard fight.
I think, and look at the, you know, it's always true that ads, especially negative ads, have tremendous power, opposition research and the like, but wow, 2020 is going to go nuclear.
And the question is, where is the passion going to be in the Democratic Party? Is it at the hard left side, the socialist side, or is it the Bidens and all who worry that is going too far afield?
Well, I mean, to me, what you look at is the record right now going into these midterms, even as we talk about the far left, Alexandra Ocasio,
right.
You know where the power is in sort of mainstream Democratic Party, and especially women who are doing well in these congressional districts.
All right, buddy, thank you very, very much.
Nice to see you all this morning.
All right, Juan Williams, we have a lot more coming up, including a 6-year-old girl who orders $350 in toys off of Amazon. And her parents were so surprised.
I love it.
All right, the president has added a tweet on that London attack right now. Cheryl Casone with more on that. Hey, Cheryl.
Right. Hey, Neil. So here's what he just wrote literally about 5 minutes ago. Another terrorist attack in London. These animals are crazy and must be dealt with through toughness and strength. Of course, we're following that breaking news out of London, a man in a car hitting the gates at Parliament. We've also got another breaking news story we're following out of Europe this morning. It's developing at this hour. This is now in Italy. Italy's transport minister just saying this bridge collapse there could be an immense tragedy. The Morandi Bridge collapsing earlier today in Genoa, Italy. This is northern Italy. Sources say that 10 people are dead. As many as 20 vehicles also apparently involved. Now, here's what we just found. There's a before picture to your left and after picture to your right of what that bridge looks at. Note all the structures underneath the bridge. Of course, we're following this breaking news out of Italy. We'll get more information as it becomes available to us here. Well, back here at home, the FBI is warning banks that cyber crooks are plotting a major heist. The website Krebs on Security is reporting that the scheme is known as an ATM cash out. It's a malware attack that can steal millions in minutes. The FBI alerted banks last Friday, indicating the crime could take place in the coming days. It's advising banks to beef up security measures. Well, Consumer Reports testing 5 mobile P2P services, and they rated Apple Pay the highest overall. Consumer Reports says that Apple Pay scored excellent or very good marks in the key protection measures of payment authentication and data privacy. Apple says there were about 1 billion Apple Pay transactions in the last quarter. Shares of that company up 23% so far this year. All right. Every parent looks forward to their children's first words, first steps. What about their first Amazon purchase? Yeah, this 6-year-old girl ordered $350 worth of toys from Amazon. Here's a picture of little Caitlin standing next to her treasure being dropped off at her home. It's nearly as tall as she is, and look how happy she is. She was originally allowed to order one Barbie doll off the website for her birthday, but she later returned, decided to fill her cart with lots of pages, toys, video games, board games, and then, of course, she chose next-day delivery. Sadly, her parents, unfortunately, weren't so excited, and they have foiled her plan. They returned everything except the Barbie doll, Neil. But, you know, way to go there, Caitlin.
If I would have done that, I wouldn't have been able to keep the Barbie. I would have been in some trouble.
You've been grounded for a week.
She's
She's 6 years old.
She's 6.
How
That
did she
doesn't
do
make
this?
it okay.
Really? Okay, I just thought, I don't know.
Modern life lessons. That's a great one. You can't just order whatever you want off of internet. It's not a gift that keeps giving.
We're running a debt. We do it in this country, don't we? All right, that's wild. All right, a parent warning about Momo. It's a viral challenge right now. This is extremely scary, and your own kids could be vulnerable. The story you're not hearing that you should. More to this. This is kind of creepy, but have you been following this viral Momo challenge? It's a threat to children. Here now to explain this, Titania Jordan, the chief parent officer over at Bark. Titania, what is this all about?
Thank you for having me, and great question. So the Momo challenge is essentially a viral phenomenon that initiated out of South America, where children will accept a friend request via an unknown number on WhatsApp and then be led through a series of violent acts and prompts that ultimately end with a request to take their own lives. So, of course, it's very scary and not something that any parent wants their child to be engaged in.
So it's Lindsey Bell here. I just have a question. If this is on WhatsApp, why hasn't WhatsApp reacted and removed the number? I mean, this has been going on, I think, for a couple months. Correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I know they've come out and said that users are recommended to block the phone number if this request comes through. But why is it on the user? Why is it the onus of the user, not their responsibility?
That's a great question, and I hope that the team at WhatsApp is taking active steps to block this phenomenon. That said, with the nature of copycat and virality, you know, it's not just one number. There are multiple numbers that are popping up. There's one from Japan and one from South America and one from another country, and it's spiraling faster than, honestly, than they can control.
So are there signs out there that kids are actually engaging this and following all these like really dangerous challenges that this thing is posing to them?
Yes. So we know of one case, again, in South America, where a girl did take her own life, and signs pointed to the fact that she was, yeah. And there are warnings posted, you know, on certain police Twitter accounts across the world saying, do not let your child engage in this.
But what can parents do? I mean, how are they supposed to know if their children are involved in something like this? It can be kind of hard. Are there any signs?
Absolutely, yeah. So the first thing to do is to always have an ongoing, open, and honest conversation with your child about what they're doing online. If you never talk about it with them, this sort of thing can come and hit you by surprise. The second thing to do is to use a monitoring service. You could use Bark, which monitors WhatsApp and can alert you to problematic issues that your child is encountering. And then also look for signs of, distress in your child, dropping grades, loss of appetite, seemingly withdrawn or agitated, especially after being on their smartphone. That's a clear warning sign that something's wrong and you need to talk to them about it.
Yeah, to put it mildly. Titania, thank you very, very much. This is scary stuff. I mean, the stuff our kids can be exposed to. If only we knew about it. Well, now some of us do. All right, an update on what's going on in Turkey right now, what's going on with their lira, what is going on right now with Tesla as well. We're going to follow the developments around that. And whether Elon Musk went a little too far talking about, well, who's lining up to financially support his move to go private. All of that coming up. Mornings with Maria. She's on vacation. I'm here. You're going to have to deal with it, America. More to this.